Hello, what's up guys? Today I'm going to show you how to go from a moment in Melee to something like this guy right here. And it's a pretty long process, but we'll get through piece by piece. First things first, you're going to need a lot of software, namely this 3D Ripper DX software. I'll provide a link to these in the description, by the way. You're going to need that. You're going to need a very special version of Dolphin. It's, I believe, the last release of Dolphin 4.0, and that's because it uses DirectX 9. This software can only rip from applications that use DirectX 9, and that's the last one of Dolphin that does it. You also need the x86 version in particular. It also only works with like 32-bit versions of games and stuff like that. So you need those. If you want to make a print, of course you're going to need a 3D printer. I use a Prusa i3 Mark IIIs, I believe. Yes. That one's pretty expensive. It's like $800, and that's if you get the kit and want to build it yourself. But there are cheaper options available. I just don't know what results you might get with them because that's not what I use. But I'm sure that some of them you could get some pretty good results too, especially if you're willing to do more experimentation and maybe spend more time doing some manual fixes afterwards. So you need that. You need Blender, and that is to mess around with the models after you extract them and clean them up when they get ripped from the software, because they don't get ripped in a very clean fashion, as you'll see. And then I use Prusa Slicer because I use a Prusa. I believe it works with other printers as well. There is a particular feature that it has which makes everything work for me. But again, I think like with a few tweaks, you might be able to get that to work with other slicers too. So that might not necessarily be the only software you can use, but that's what I use. So first things first, we're going to find a frame that we want to capture in Melee and make that into a model. So I'll open up 3D Ripper DX, and what you want to do is pick out the location of your dolphin, I guess, application, the DirectX 9 version, and open that up in this window here. So I already have it here, Dolphin x86. It's the only x86 version I have, so it's pretty easy to know that's the right one. And then you're going to want to change a couple of options here. I just changed these keys that you see here to make it so it doesn't conflict with what Dolphin has by default. And the most important one is this setting here, also captured wavefront.obj. That's the model that we're actually going to be working with. And if you don't have that selected, it doesn't capture it, so you can't do anything. And then there's some output directories. They don't really seem to do anything if you try and change their location, so I basically just let it go to its default place, and then from then on I move the stuff afterwards and organize it from there. So anyways, once you get it all set up, click launch. I get some errors. They don't matter. They don't affect it. And you get this very old version of Dolphin. You can tell it's old because if you look, it doesn't even have native support for like Wii U adapters and stuff like that. Like I have a Mayflash adapter. It's on Wii U mode right now, and you see it's not picking anything up because you don't see any options here for it. So what I actually do is I switch to PC mode. You can hear those things right there, and then when I do that, I have it set up with direct input. So I got all my controls here. Not ideal, but as far as I can tell, it's the only way you can really capture frames. Alright, so I'm going to load up 20XX because it has all the characters unlocked. I can change some settings with the comms to make capturing frames easier. And sorry, let's go ahead and turn that down here. So what I thought I'd do, just for a demonstration, is get a frame of. Well, one guy suggested that I have Falcon doing the knee, and I thought that just in general that's a really kind of beautiful image when he has his knee sticking out and he's got that pose. So I thought that'd be cool, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna have him kneeing Marth. And the reason for that is, one, to kind of counter the Marth bias of this print, and then also because Marth is one of the models that's requires a lot of fixing up afterwards, because he has a lot of what's called non-manifold geometry, which is basically like stuff that is it's like two-dimensional. And if you're looking to print something, it can't be two-dimensional. You can't print something two-dimensional in a three-dimensional world, so you have to fix it afterwards. His cape is the worst offender for that, and that's pretty difficult to work with. I don't really have a great way to fix that up, but I have something that that kind of works, and it's very scuffed, but I'll show you what I do for that. So we'll make it player 4, and we'll set it to manual, because I got a controller in port 4 right now. So let's do green. Green's just my favorite color. That's why I do green for everything. We'll go to FD, and oh, I made him player 2. Whoops. Just to let you know, my Falcon is trash, so I don't play Falcon at all, so it's going to be pretty bad. Plus, there's an input delay on this thing anyways. Alright, so basically what I do is I do the thing that I want to capture the frame of, and I try and pause on just the right frame, and do the capture from there. Something to mention that I didn't mention until just now, when you start up your game, if you see in the top left here, there's this ready to capture icon. That means that you set up the 3D Ripper correctly, so you definitely want to see that. So let's see if we can get this frame. Ooh, not quite. Oh, I was just slightly early. Alright, let's get Marth back up here. Oh, what? Oh, I forgot to set up the other controller. Alright, so we'll just have to have Marth fall. Whatever. Alright. Let's try it again. Oh, way too early. That was weak. Okay, that's not bad. Marth's kind of got a funny pose. So I guess we'll do this. So once you're ready, my capture key was F11, so you just press that. When you do it, the game's going to freeze briefly. You'll be able to tell because I'll move stuff around and it's not going to work. So right now I can move and all that. F11, I'm doing stuff and it's not moving. And then after a bit, it starts to move again. That means that the frame is captured. And we'll go ahead and exit out. And the software extracts all the data to this root, at least on my PC. So my main hard drive, and then it creates a folder called 2. I don't know why, it just does, and that's where the stuff is. So 2, and then within 2, there's all this stuff. This is just kind of junk. I think it might be textures or something, but that's not what we're after. Open up 2, and then you're going to have an OBJ file. This one right here. That's the one that we want. So just for simplicity, I'll move it to the desktop. And that's basically where all the data of our frame is. So now that I have it there, I'm going to open up Blender. And clear all this stuff. I'll show you some of the shortcuts I use for Blender as well. I didn't know any of this before I attempted to learn it to make these prints, so I'm not very good at it too. But I'll show you what I do. So Right now, whenever you open up Blender, it opens up some stuff by default. I just press A twice to select everything, and then I delete it. There we go. Now we have like a blank canvas to work with, so to speak. Then you're gonna want to go to File, Import, Wavefront OBJ. There you go. And ours is at the desktop, so we will import that. Alright, here we go. And it's kind of a mess, the stuff that it captures, so you basically just have to fix it up a lot afterwards. First thing I do is pretty much just get rid of everything that I don't want. So I just want the character models here. So to make it easier to do, I'm going to switch to, first I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to switch to wireframe view down in the viewport shading. Okay, and now we can kind of see stuff through other stuff better. What else do I need? I need zoom out a bit. So here you can see you have FD, you have the stage, you have the characters, you can even see textures for the pause menu there, which I think is kind of hilarious. But that, I guess that's how Melee does it. It basically just like freezes the game, and then it like puts a screen, a texture screen over what's going on, which is lucky for us because that makes it easy to extract stuff, relatively speaking. So we'll just sort of select stuff and start getting rid of it. Probably one of the easier ways to do that is if you press C, you'll see this circle comes up, and that's like a circle select. So basically, when you hold down left mouse, anything that it touches is going to be selected. So why isn't this working right now? I told you it was scuffed. Okay, what do we got? There we go. I think I need to be in edit mode here. So let's try that. Okay. Oh, I have, okay, I want to select faces. Let me try that. What? What is happening? I'm very much a noob with this as well. So that's why it's pretty bad. Oh, was that it? I didn't have the right thing selected there. I don't know, man. Alright, well, let's just delete all that first. Alright, circle select doesn't seem to be working for me, so I'm going to do this other one where you press B, and then this kind of crosshair looking thing comes up, and then you click and you drag like that, and then everything that it's encompassing is going to be selected. So let's try that. Not working again. Great. Maybe object mode? There we go. So I actually had to be in object mode for that. Alright, whatever. So let's just delete some of the stuff that's right around the characters that we don't want. So that way we can more easily just get them. So all these textures here are like effects from the hit. We don't want that. So I'm going to go through and right click to select them and then delete them. So that way they're not overlapping with our characters. That's Mars Cape. We definitely want to keep that. So let's see. So by the way, you can zoom in and out with your scroll wheel. You can kind of move your orientation like this by pushing down your scroll wheel and moving it around. And then you can pan by holding shift and doing that same thing, pushing down your scroll wheel. So what I'll try and do is maybe get under the characters here. Doesn't seem to be working too well. So maybe I can just do this. I can just select the stage, delete it, delete those. Okay, that should be good enough. So let's see if we can't get in front of that. Okay, looks like we're in front of it. So delete this. Okay, that missed those things. All right, let's select these then. What? Very weird. Looked like that selected some of Falcon. Okay, there we go. So select our model that we want, and then there's still a bunch of other stuff, but now that we have just selected what we want, we can hit Control I. That inverts the selection, so everything that was selected is now not selected, everything else is selected. Delete that. Okay, there we go. Now we got our models. Let's see about moving the origin to them. So that is in, where is that? I think you do have to be in edit mode for that. Let's see. Oh, well, actually, first what we can do is we can just join them. So we can select everything, hit Control J, and that should join. Maybe that didn't join them. All right. Okay, I think that did actually work now. Okay, edit mode. What is happening? Join. There we go. All right. So I just clicked join on the left. Maybe it's not Control J. Maybe I just forgot that. I don't know. But anyways, now right in that same menu below join, set origin. We're gonna do origin to center of mass volume. Actually, that doesn't look great. Let's do surface. Okay, that looks better. All right. And so here's one main issue that you got to get fixed up, is that for whatever reason, whenever you extract in this way, every model is very skewed. So you can see that, like, they're not quite 2D, but they're like super flattened, like as though they are 2D. So I don't really have a good way to fix this. Basically what I just do is in object mode you can change the scale over here, and I just try and like change the scale to where the models look good. So first of all, let's increase the Z, and it's probably easier if we do solid for this actually, so we can see how they look. So that looks okay. I kind of just try and look at their heads and make sure they're not like stretched or squished or whatever. What is that square? That's really weird. Okay, that got rid of it. So yeah, there's a lot of cleanup you gotta do, manual cleanup. I think for the purposes of demonstration, this is good enough. I might like try and do some other stuff to make sure the scale is correct otherwise, but you know, whatever. So now there's some stuff I'll show you here. So you can see that Marth's cape like has no thickness as you're moving around. That happens with Marth's cape. It happens with like clothes in general and just a few other random things. Like here I think Falcon's kind of like helmet is 2D for whatever reason. But because of that, if you just try and export this into a way that you can put it into your slicer to print it, you'll see there's some issues. So I guess I might as well just demonstrate that. So I have this plugin for 3D printing on Blender. You don't really have to do it. All you have to do is like file, export, and then I do STL, so you can do STL. This just makes it so I can do that with a button. So oh, that didn't work. That's weird. Oh, I don't have a location set, I bet. We'll just make it the desktop again, whatever. Alright, that's been exported. So there it is. We'll just go ahead and open that up in the slicer and see just how bad it looks. Might not look too bad. Configuration update? Sure, why not? Okay, so file, import, STL. This will be different if you use a different slicer, of course, but I'll just put it in like so. Okay. So it doesn't look too bad, right? You see there's some stuff that's like a dark green and some stuff that's light green. Dark green stuff is stuff that can't be printed well. And you'll notice that there's a lot of issue. There's almost 10,000 errors. So this is like the key piece that makes it not a totally ridiculous amount of work. There's a feature in Prusa Slicer where if I go to this exclamation mark here and I right click, it will attempt to repair the model with the NetFab service. So NetFab is this software that basically takes in models and it finds out what's wrong with them to make it to where it can't be 3D printed, and it tries to fix it. So I just did that, and it made some changes to the model here. Like one thing you can see, it looks like Marth's cape is like very kind of messed up, like almost bloated, but at least it's solid now. So then we'll try and slice, and this is basically making the code to put it into a 3D print. And that actually looks pretty good. Wow, this is the first time I've had something that looks that good right off the bat. Of course, like if you're going to actually print this, you're going to need, you know, something for like Falcon's foot here, so that way the printer doesn't try and just print him in the air. Okay, I am seeing something that isn't great. This little blob here. I don't know why that's there. Maybe we can try and get rid of that. See what it is in the Blender. Also, some stuff is like really tiny, so it's just not going to print well. Like, for example, it looks like it made Marth's sword really thin, so you could thicken that up. But generally, what'll happen is some of that 2D stuff will be all messed up. Like there will be holes in it or something. Like I almost always get holes in Marth's cape, and what I do there, I'll just show you what I do, even though it's not an issue here. I guess the one piece that would be different is that normally, like, I have two monitors, and I'll put this screen over on my other monitor, and basically go to where I see holes. I'll zoom into it, I'll try and like match up the perspective in Blender, and then I'll try and do the fixing there, and I export it again, import it back into the slicer, repair it with NetFab, and see if it looks better or worse or whatever. Oftentimes, what'll happen is like it'll maybe fix that one thing that you were trying to fix, and then like 3 other things will break, which is the most time-consuming part. Is just like doing that over and over again until you get lucky and stuff doesn't seem to break. So, but I guess for now we'll try and remove this little blob on Falcon. We'll thicken up Marth's sword, and there's a bunch of ways to do stuff like that in Blender. There's like ways that it tries to do it automatically. By using modifiers, or what they're called. It's this stuff that you can apply with this wrench icon here. The two main ones would be solidify and where's the other one? Displace. There we go. You can try those. For me, they generally don't work. They make it so the slicing is even like less accurate, and they kind of distort your models in a way that I don't really like. But you can try it, maybe it'll work for you, but I guess I'll just I'll show you like what's worked the best for me. So first of all, I'm going to find whatever geometry I want to modify. I'm going to go ahead and I'll thicken up Marth's sword, so I'm going to use the circle select to select it here. I guess that's good enough. And then to thicken it up, let's go back to Tools, and then under Add there's Extrude. So I'm going to extrude his sword a bit. And let's change the axis to this. Alright. That doesn't look great, but whatever, we'll try it. So basically what extrude does is, if you're familiar with like CAD software at all, is that generally you're going to start with like some kind of geometric object in 2D. So like say you have like a rectangle that's like so. Extrude is basically like kind of sweeping it along, so like moving it at an axis perpendicular to where it is, and then all that space that it sweeps out as it moves becomes a volume, and so you get a rectangular prism. So like going this way, it would start here, that would be one end of the object at the end, and then it moves forward, and then where it ends is the other end, and then you have a volume there. So you can do that with anything 2D in here, and it's kind of rough, but it should make it a little better and more printable. So that was like a very rough thing I just did. A lot of this is very rough, you know, hence why I warn you guys that it's scuffed, but it is. So there's something. Okay, we'll select Marth's cape here. All these polygons in Marth's cape, and we're gonna extrude that because right now in Blender it is two-dimensional. So we'll see if we can make it three-dimensional and also not totally gross while doing it. Select all of that geometry. And then there's a few options you can do when you're extruding. I generally will do, well, at least what I'll do is I'll try, so I just did like a regular extrude with that one. So it's basically everything's getting extruded in one, along one axis. This one, region vertex normals will make it so whatever face you have, and you know, often they're like facing a bunch of different directions, it'll extrude the face in the direction that is just opposite of, right, it's like perpendicular to all of its components. So these are all like planes, sort of, right, that are in these triangle shapes. So basically whatever direction it doesn't exist in, so like say this triangle, it's kind of like got that axis and that axis, it'll just move, it'll extrude it in the direction of the one axis that it's not doing. So that'd be like this one here. So we can try that, and then as you move your mouse, it's going to move it through space to extrude it. Okay, and that was a bit much, you know. I maybe could have went with a bit less. Let's try that. Let's do a little bit less. Okay, we can go with that. Alright, that seems like a decent thickness. Sometimes vertex normals doesn't work at all, I will say, and that can be a bit troublesome. And then on top of that, like sometimes you'll have, like, see, it looks like there's this one polygon here that wasn't extruded well for whatever reason, so let's see if we can fix that one. By the way, with circle select, whenever you're selecting something, like say you're selecting the cape and oh damn, I selected part of Marth's leg, instead of just having to restart again, you can hold your scroll wheel, like push that down, and then go over the stuff you don't want selected, and it'll deselect it. But anyways, this is what I wanted to select. I believe it's this one right here. Didn't look like that one got extruded at all. Not really sure why, but we'll extrude it. There we go. There's some overlap there. Overlap is going to give NetFab some trouble, but I don't know, we'll see. So I guess we could try and figure out what that thing with Falcon was, but let's just see how that affected Marth's cape. So right now in our slicer we have this like really thick cape here, Let's see if this made it a bit thinner and a bit more realistic. So we'll go ahead and export that STL again. Okay, and it should go to it should just overwrite the one that we made. New project, import STL. Okay, repair. Okay, okay. And let's slice that. Okay, so it looks like Marth's Cape now. It's got these holes, which isn't great, but it is a lot thinner, so that's some improvement. And but it looks like there's also all these holes up here. So, you know, like I said, sometimes it just it breaks things, and you just have to, you basically just go back through trial and error. At least that's what I do, and try and get it to where it looks good at the end. You know, I put a stand on here too. I guess I can show you how to do that as well. So for the stand, I go to create, cylinder, and then looks like I put it all the way over there. So let's move it, and then we will make it a lot thicker in the Z, I believe. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Undo is in tools, so I don't know if anything stayed from that just now, but I think it did. So we'll contract it again. But anyways, to make sure we have everything deselected now, and then just select that cylinder. That isn't working. Object mode. Oh, I guess I gotta unjoin these. I don't know, whatever. Maybe it'd be easier to make your stand before you join everything, but you know, I'm just doing, I'm just like fumbling around basically and trying to do stuff that way. I forget how to unjoin stuff. Damn. Alright, well whatever, we'll just make a new one. So, unselect everything, cylinder. Let's see if this works. Okay. So I must have accidentally had some of the other stuff selected too. So we'll expand it in X and Y. To keep it as like a proper cylindrical shape, it'll have to be the same amount in both. So let's do 30 and 30, and then we'll. The other thing you can do, you can change its location by using this here, or these arrows here. You can just click that, and then it'll move it along that axis. So it might be good to thicken it up a bit in the Z. Alright, so, and then I kind of fuse that with Marth's feet a bit, so that way he stays on the stand when it comes out. And then I guess I could make this really big and have it encompass Falcon as well. But whatever. So that's how you would make like the stand. That's how I made my stand. Is I just like generated a cylinder in Blender and then made that part of the model. And then there's also considerations for if you're printing it, like actually making stuff, you know, structurally sound. So like the sword was one thing there, but you're gonna want to look around at a lot of details and see stuff that that isn't gonna work well. Like for example, in that print, the other thing I had to do is Marth's sheath was like barely connected to his body. And so I figured if I tried to print it as is, that was going to be really weak, and it was just going to come off when I'm taking off the support material. And so I thickened that up too. Um, so you want to look out for stuff like that. Uh, and then I guess that's the other thing to mention too. Like, even with your stand and stuff like that, the way that FDM printers work, fused deposition modeling printers, which is the most common kind, it's what I have, is they have like a filament of some plastic and they heat it up to where it melts, and then they extrude it one layer at a time from like the build plate, this bottom part, like the base, and then they go upward layer by layer. And so you have to have, like, if you have something in the air, it can't just like print there, because it'll try and deposit material here and then it's just going to fall because of gravity. It's not just going to float there, and then it can build from there on. So you got to use supports for stuff that's overhanging too much. Like, for example, if you didn't have a stand there, which you would want for Falcon's foot, just his arm here. If you don't want to have a stand going up to that, you would have to create supports. And then support material is a whole other thing. What I'm thinking I would do is, if I'm looking to sell these, I'm probably going to make it so the support material is actually composed of a different plastic than the model itself. And what I could do is use this plastic called PLA, or not PLA, PVA. PLA is what the model would be made of. That's polylactic acid. PVA is polyvinyl alcohol. And polyvinyl alcohol is a polymer, but the thing about it is that it's soluble in water. So I can make the supports out of that, and then I could ship out a model with the supports on there, so that way it's less likely to break in transit. And then whenever the person gets it, they just drop it in water, in their bathtub or something maybe, and it will dissolve the supports away, and then you'll just have the model. So that's what I'm thinking I would do. I think that's the best way to go about selling these. Polylactic acid's a bit expensive though, so that would probably be the bulk of the price and all that. Like, I have a good job. I'm not really looking to do this as like a side gig or whatever, but I figure what I could do is, if I sell these, then I could like sell them, and then all the money I get would go into being able to do more cool 3D printing stuff. Like, maybe I could get a resin printer, and a resin printer would allow for much finer detail than an FDM printer can do, just because of the way that resin printers work. And it would be a lot slower though, but it would be pretty amazing, the stuff that could be done with that. So I don't know, that's a thought. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, you would go in, you would find out what's causing this, you would fix it, and then I guess I'll also just show you some of the support stuff. So first of all, I think making the infill this number higher would be good. That's going to solidify the stuff that's part of your print more, so it's more structurally sound, and also less likely to come off if you're printing supports that you have to remove by hand, which is what I did. Support material, I guess we go back to the platter. Supports, we're going to need them everywhere. So I just turned that on. And then some of the settings that, at least the settings that I use, I guess I'll go through and I'll just find all of them and I'll do that. So first of all, for the first layer I do 215 for PLA, polylactic acid, the one that I print with. Other layers I would decrease it, and so I would make that like maybe 200, which decreases stringing, which is just kind of like filament that just sort of falls out of the head, or extra that after it's deposited kind of stays coming out, and then when the printer head moves, it like pulls it like stringy cheese, and it goes with it wherever the printer head moves, and that's not intended to be part of the print, and so it can cause these fuzzies on your print. It can, if you're doing support material, it can kind of like, and you're doing a ton of layers of it, it can sort of lock the support material there, which is really not good. I had that issue with the Marth Taunt model when his sword went up and the support material going along with it. It was really hard to remove that sword. I just basically had to break it off, remove the support and super glue it back on. So that's something that's not too good. Contact Z distance, you definitely want to make this 0.2. So the support material, there's like the part that is just its structure, and then there's also the part where it comes into contact with your print, and that's what this contact Z distance is referring to. They call it the support interface. And so if you make that this higher option 0.2, then it makes it easier to break off of your print. And then I guess I'll just show you too. So I'll slice it with the supports. You're gonna see it just kind of vomits it everywhere. But just kind of like how I went about taking it off. If you were to print it and then you want to remove these. So what you'll see is that it's basically like these sort of weird rectangular prisms that like sometimes like they're solid in this direction, but then every once in a while there are these little strands that go in the other direction. That's for its own structural support, like as it's printing. So I find the best way to take it off is just to try and like go at it and like just sort of feel where it's weak, and then just kind of pull off from there, and just being careful that the force you're applying is not going to damage the part of your print. It's not quite as sensitive as you might think, because your print is going to generally be a lot like more structurally sound than the support, so it should come off pretty easily, and you don't have to worry about your print. But that is definitely a concern. The other thing I did is on these on parts where it has to support a lot, it does these like back and forth things a lot, and I found the best way to break those off when it can't just kind of come off like an accordion, which is like basically you have these pieces of support, and they kind of like snake around, and so sometimes you can just pull it off and then just kind of keep pulling, and it just like unfurls the rest of the support. Whenever you have these bridging things that come across, you basically can't do that. So I just take I just take some scissors and I just like cut right through the middle of these pieces, and then pull it off. And I just do a bit at a time here and there. I recommend, like, for removing supports, to have some tools on hand. I used a pair of scissors. I used a spatula, which helps kind of like pry things apart. I would try and avoid using that if you can, but you might need that for some parts, like especially around the interface here. I used a pair of sort of like wire cutters to kind of break stuff that required a lot more force than just cutting with the scissors. I used an X-Acto knife to kind of do the same thing that I did with the spatula, but where I needed finer control. And I use super glue. You want to have super glue on hand. With PLA, it's kind of good because if you break something off that's part of your print, if you super glue it back on, what I found happens is the super glue. What super glue basically is it is kind of like a dissolved plastic. It's in some kind of solvent. I don't know exactly what. Maybe some kind of alcohol, something with a high vapor pressure, so it evaporates quickly. And it's just like a piece of plastic. So whenever you like put super glue on something, what you're basically doing is like putting this dissolved plastic on there, and then when it vaporizes, that plastic hardens, so it becomes like solid. And that's how super glue works. What I found is that whatever solvent was in the super glue I used actually dissolved the print material plastic a bit, the PLA. And that sounds bad, but what it actually did is it kind of fused the print back together a bit. And on top of that, it actually, whatever dye they use for like this silver color, it actually adopted that color as well, which is really good. It kind of makes it look like the parts that I had to super glue back together where like it kind of hides them better. So there's a couple places. One piece. This was just a kind of a dumb mistake I made. I had I had Marth's foot like barely contacting this post. So that broke off almost immediately when I was taking apart the print. But the other one that came off when I was mostly when I was trying to remove support material around Fox was this part on his foot just came off, that weakest point. So like the part that was fused to the base was fine, but that weak part right there just broke off after enough twisting and turning. But if you look really closely, I super glued it, but you can see that there's still that silver color there. So that's kind of nice. And the same thing with Marth's foot here. In fact, here you can see where it almost sort of like pulled out the die from that part of the post. So that's kind of evidence to, you know, what I'm thinking happens there, where it's like solubilizing it. But anyways, I guess that's pretty much everything. Yeah, I mean, it takes a good amount of work, but you get some really beautiful stuff at the end, and yeah. I guess, like, as for the future with me, I want to do maybe some other models, and just kind of get better at this process of repairing the models, and you know, optimizing how I print them. Once I get, I basically I've ordered this multi-material upgrade that should make that that thing where I dissolve the supports possible. Whenever that comes in, it's shipping from the Czech Republic, so I don't know when it'll get here, especially with COVID going on and all that. But you know, that'll be neat. If I get that, then I should be able to at least sell the model that I made by printing it and having the PLA be the supports, and then I could ship that out. So that'll be kind of neat. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you've learned a little bit about how to go about doing it yourself. I guess if you want, you could try and find a model, and then, you know, if I open up a shop where I'm doing custom ones, send it to me, and then I could try and print it. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you later. See you around on Melee Hell.